Your Soul, a youth empowerment organization that he co-founded in 1995. It provides, well, he can tell you a little bit about it, but it provides education, employment opportunities, community organizing, training, legal representation, and international study programs to Africa and Latin America. Khary's been recognized with numerous awards, including from Oprah Winfrey, the Ford Foundation, Fund for the City of New York State's Department of Education, Black Girls Rock, the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. The list goes on and on. His writing has also appeared in numerous publications, including in the 2005 collection Letters from Young Activists, Today's Rebels Speak Out, published by Nation Books. And I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you. And thank you, Bob, for the invitation to be here today.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I want to just begin my comments by talking a little bit about why I'm here, the context for the conversation and the work. And that really is the Brother and Sister Soul. It's a comprehensive youth development organization in Harlem. We've been around for 16 years. We work with youth from the age of 7 to 21. As said in the introduction, doing international study in Africa and Latin America, rites of passage programming, college guidance, work around developing a moral and ethical code, how young people want to live their life. It's about youth empowerment, youth leadership, and youth development. And the work has always been positive in terms of those supports of young people from the beginning, but also from the beginning we needed another element to our work which speaks to our work today, and that's what we call our protective services. We've had to provide legal representation for our members since our beginning because of the disproportionate policing in our community, because of how our young people are criminalized and seen within the legal system. So what do I mean by that? What's the context for that? Our population is 99% Black and Latino. Our Latino population, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican American, is about 95% of the Latino population. They're young people who live in Harlem and Washington Heights in the South Bronx. And the reality is that there's a famous book written called A Tale of Two Cities. In New York City, when it comes to issues of the NYPD, we live in two cities at least. We live in one city where people feel, it seems, protected by the police, feel secure when police come around, feel that the city is safer because of the decrease in murders in our city, and feel that they live in a city where the police are doing their job. In communities like Harlem, when you talk about the population that I work with, young people feel, residents feel, especially male residents feel, that they live in a police state. That's not hyperbole, that's a reality of their lived experience every day in Harlem. What does that look like? Bob started talking about stop and frisk, and just to take the numbers a little further to give people some context for this. Stop and frisk is a policy of this mayor and this police commissioner that was not always in place. Over the last 10 years, 3 million New Yorkers, 3 million have been stopped and frisked, or there have been 3 million incidents of stop and frisk, not 3 million New Yorkers. That's how many have been stopped and frisked in the last 10 years. 600,000 last year, 87% of whom were Black and Latino. I'm not going to go through too many stats, but these are very, very important. In order to stop somebody, I also won't go through too much law, I promise, but this is also very important. In order to stop somebody under the New York State Penal Code, you have to have a reasonable suspicion that the individual has committed a crime or is in possession of a weapon. A reasonable standard. So of those 600,000 stopped last year, 94% were allowed to go on their way, which means the police were incorrect 94% of the time, which would meet no standard of reasonableness that I've ever seen. What it means is that there's a fishing expedition going on in communities like Harlem. It is used as a way to manage and police a population. We have young people who have been stopped and frisked by the police, often at gunpoint, 35 times. We have teenagers who come to our building from their school on 135th and Edgecombe who get stopped and frisked so many times they don't even report it to us when they come in anymore because their response is, that's what police do. Their expectation is they will be stopped and frisked, and so when it happens, they are no longer upset. That in and of itself is a ramification that we don't focus enough on, what that does to the psyche of young people. We've had young people stopped and frisked and arrested for being in the park with no ID. We've had young people arrested for congregating on street corners. We've had young people arrested for walking through the trains using their school pass because the police officers did not believe they were on the way to school. Once arrested, New York is one of only 2 states that puts 16 and 17-year-olds in prison with grown adults. So now what happens is, even if you've been stopped illegally, even if the charges will be thrown out, you may spend 2 days in central booking, or the tombs as we call it, before you can be released. You may be 16 years old before your parents can get a hold of you. Even with the legal representation of our organization, it may take us 2 or 3 days to get you out. All for being stopped for doing something that everybody in this room has done before. I'm not even talking about those who've committed low-level crimes yet. I'm talking about not arresting people in Central Park for having no ID, but arresting people in Marcus Garvey Park for having no ID. Then we're arresting people in Harlem for low-level possession of marijuana when there are drug raids on corners and on blocks. There are no drug raids on blocks 20 blocks south of Columbia University. And I can assure you there's more weed being smoked at Columbia University than on our block. But they're not coming after Columbia University. Any Columbia University students in the room? Okay. And they're nodding their heads, okay? Walk through any room and just breathe deeply and you're going to smell it, okay? So there are intentional policies in place that are criminalizing our young people. One of the most damaging that was just recently changed is that roughly 50,000 people a year were being stopped for misdemeanor marijuana possession. The law in the state of New York, again, is that if you have low levels of marijuana on you, it's a ticketable offense. You can't be arrested for it. If you take it into plain sight, it's now a misdemeanor. So what the police do in communities like ours is they raid corners, roll up on young people, and they say, if you have marijuana on you, it's better that you show it to us. And so a young person, not knowing the law, brings it out of his or her pocket. They've now committed a misdemeanor. So when we talk about this issue, one of the things that's very important to talk about, and Bob and I have talked about this at length, is that it's not just about trying to change police practices. It's that the police are breaking the law through their actions every single day. There's a 4th Amendment right to privacy. There's a 14th Amendment right that classes of people can't be treated differently. And what the stop and frisk policy shows is that disproportionately black and brown men in this city are arrested by the hundreds of thousands, processed through the system, their information kept within the system, social securities, arrest records, etc. And so a database is built from that point. Our young people experience this, and for that reason we have to provide the legal representation. You also walk throughout Harlem and you see things that, again, you don't see 20 blocks south. You see towers that go up 40 feet high, that overlook the entire community to keep an eye on that neighborhood. They watch, they videotape. Our young people are arrested for walking into their building, public housing, from those towers, not using a key. How many of us have left our building where we live, gone to the corner to get a newspaper, gone to get a carton of milk or juice, come home and follow the neighbor in? Will they then go after the young people and say that they're trespassing in the building, use that again as a reason to stop our young people? So when I say that our young people feel like they live in a police state, again, this is not an exaggeration.